Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right. I am John Palacio.
And I'm Marlene Cuellar, and thank you for joining us this morning.
It is a Thursday, Belize. It is January number 2. January 2, 2020.
That's right.
My goodness, Happy New Year, Marlene.
Happy New Year to you too. Happy New Year to all our viewers.
Wow. Just like that. Like 2020 is here.
Yeah.
And we're already in the second day. We do hope that you've got your plans ready and set with your family throughout this year. One of the things we stressed on for 2019 was actually, having that vision. Yeah. And in having that vision, you must carry out that mission and try to make it happen for your family. Put things in quarters and you'll see how you progress.
That's right. And of course, we thank you for tuning into this, our first show for the new year.
I am so
happy. It's
to
only 2 days before the next weekend, so get up, shake it off, and let's get the new year started on the right foot. We're going to be checking in on our weather, and so we can see, what it's going to be like for today. It seems that the cool left with Christmas.
Yeah, it seems so. It seemed that somebody got the cool for their Christmas gift, opened it, and then threw it away.
Yeah, done with that. The kids do that with some of the toys. They think it's cool for them, and then they let it.
And they leave it right there, and it's happening throughout. It is happening throughout. And I'd like to remind folks as well, Christmas might not have been Christmas for some people, but if you've got some toys lying around, you've got some clothing lying around, then somebody could use that, and somebody could go a long way with that for 2020.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, it seems that we're going to go ahead and read the prepared forecast for this morning. And the general situation is going to be for generally fair and warm weather to prevail over the area.
Excellent. While the 24-hour forecast is saying here that skies will be mostly sunny today and partly cloudy tonight. Little or no rainfall is expected.
All right, the winds are moving from the east to the southeast at 10 to 20 knots, and that makes for a choppy to moderate sea state.
Excellent. Should we jump to the temperatures? Let's see what's going on there. All right. Some of the temperatures for today, they're saying that for the highs along the coast will be as high as 86 degrees Fahrenheit, 88 degrees Fahrenheit inland, and 80 degrees up in the hills.
All right, and our outlook for the next few days. Friday and Friday night is for continuing fair and warm weather during the day, and the chance of a few showers or isolated thunderstorms mostly over the south and offshore during the night.
All right, Angelia Guy, we thank you so very much for our hard copy of the weather forecast for today. But it seems like it's going to be a wonderful day.
Yes.
And then again, it all depends on you and whether the day should be wonderful. Remember, it is a lovely day in a brand new year.
That's right. Mm-hmm. All right, and we are going to start the year off with a bit of motivation. And of course, our daily motivation comes from dailyom.com. And so our eye opener goes like this. We develop grace as we learn. With the guiding hand of the universe, life will unfold exactly the way it should. The idea of trusting the universe is a popular one these days, but many of us don't know what this really means, and we often have a hard time doing it. This is partly because the story of humankind is most often presented as a story about struggle, control, and survival, instead of one of trust and collaboration with the universe. Yet in truth, we need to adhere to both ideas in this life. On the one hand, there is much to be said about exerting control over our environment. We created shelter to protect ourselves from the elements. We hunted for animals and invented agriculture to feed ourselves. However, it is also clear that there are plenty of things that we cannot control, no matter how hard we try, and we often receive support from an unseen force, a universe that provides us with what we cannot provide for ourselves. It is a good idea to take responsibility for the things in life that we can control or create. We work so we can feed, clothe, and shelter our loved ones and ourselves. We manifest our dreams and visions in physical form with hard work and forethought. But at a certain point, when we've done all that we can, we must let go and allow the universe to take over. We develop equanimity and grace as we learn to trust that. With the guiding hand of the universe, life will unfold exactly the way it should.
Perfect. I think, and I'll sum it up as quickly as possible. What you just heard is exactly how you should start your year, and exactly how you should carry it out throughout the year. There's some things we're able to control, and there's some you just have to let the universe go with it, and you ride along the wave. At the end of everything that happens, there is always something good right there for you. It is a learning lesson. That's for me.
Yeah, I think it's a great eye-opener to start
Perfect.
the year off because, and I love that it separates the two different thought patterns
Yes.
that people tend to have, which is that you are constantly seeking to gain control, or that you're a go with the flow type of person and allows the universe to unfold as it should. But what it really says is that there is a balance. And there are times when we can exert that control, perhaps make changes within ourselves, how we respond, what we work towards, what we can build, what we can create. And there are other times where we just have to realize it is completely outside of our hands. And this just takes me back to one of the things I've mentioned here quite a bit. It's just the serenity prayer.
Yeah.
That's it, and that's, I think, a good lesson to
That's
move
the
into the
best
brand new
lesson.
year. What we can control, we take care of.
And you know what? And I'd like for folks to actually find that prayer, and then you spread that out throughout your family, especially for those of us who'll be going back to work for the first work day of the new year. There are things that we are able to control, like you mentioned, and the prayer says it all. Grant me the serenity to accept. And, so I think it's a perfect way for us to start 2020. It is a brand new year. Keep your eyes open for brand new things. Accept those things so you can eventually, I think in accepting those things, you become a better person. Because at the end of the day, you will learn something new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, and keeping things moving for this morning, it's time for a little bit of morning tea.
Yeah, so what do you say we mix it up? Add in some of this, add in some of that, and then we add in the fact that on some people's houses, there's still decorations up. Do you think that,
I think most people's houses.
There's still decorations up. And for me, it was always a wandering thought in my mind. I wonder when we should take those things off. When is the right time, or when do you consider it to be the right time to take down your Christmas decorations?
Is there a right time?
Is there? And that's the thing. For me,
I know some people have very set traditions on this.
yeah, and it always takes me back to PG because that's where I remember Christmas at its best. Growing up with Catalina Reyes and Martin Reyes, their thing was always that, we'll put up on the 15th and we'll take down on the 6th. I don't know why the 6th.
Yeah.
It was always the first, at least in the first weekend, that's when we'll take things down and put them up, store them properly, because we're going to use them again at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So that was it. The first week of Christmas, the first week of the new year, the decorations should be down. That was tradition for us.
Yeah. And, I think that I do it when I when I have the time. It's in January for sure.
Yeah.
It's after New Year's for sure. It may be this weekend, it may be next.
Yeah.
It just depends on what my schedule looks like or how I'm feeling, because it is a lot of effort to take it down.
But what was it like for you back in the day, growing up? Was it that you took it down a certain time, or it was the same that you now have the thought of, it's when I'm ready?
I'm very sure my mother had a specific time she took it down. I just didn't pay attention to it, to be honest. And so, I think we develop our own practices as we get older as well. I know it's tied to some religious celebrations as well.
Yes, it is.
And some people wait until after the Feast of the Three Kings to be able to take it down. So tell us, what do you do? Do you have a specific time when you take down all your Christmas decorations? It's really interesting because it's like the minute Christmas, at least for me, Christmas passes and then it just doesn't hold the same charm.
Yeah.
Like before Christmas, that tree behind you, John, that was just, it made me feel so good getting ready for Christmas. Now it's just a tree. Like, that's just all it is.
It is just a
It just
tree.
doesn't hold the same charm anymore.
With some
That's
decorations
just
on
me.
it. Yeah, you know, and there are a lot of people who feel just like you.
Yeah.
Because for them, hey, look, after Christmas,
I mean, does your
it's just
Christmas lights give you the same feeling, the same emotion you had before Christmas?
to be honest with you, the day after Christmas, they're like,
It's like, oh, I don't have to put on the lights.
Yeah, we don't have to put it on.
What's that?
Well,
It changes, even changes color. That's what Henry's. Okay.
the tree is much more lively. Oh, really?
Okay.
So there we
All
go.
right. So we had one perspective there in studio. Chris is saying if you had a live tree, it would change color by now too. So
Yeah.
it would feel a lot different.
Let's think of take it down, no? What do you think, Steve? Same thing?
You know, as I said, it's a lot of work. But tell us what you do.
Yeah.
We're very interested in finding this out. Maybe you find people who have the same tradition as you do. Maybe you were a Lone Ranger or you just have a great idea. I know I've heard of people who keep it up year round. They just change it according to the seasons, whatever seasonal holidays.
I've never met one of those folks, but I that's very interesting because you're right. The season.
You could do
there are
a
seasons throughout the
Valentine's
year.
tree.
You could do a Valentine's tree, indeed, Easter egg tree, because people do these things. So you're right there. You're right there.
There's
Wow.
an idea if you're feeling particularly lazy this month. It'll just mean more work as the seasons progress. All right, so go ahead and chime in on that. Of course, that's our morning tea for today.
Love
just a
it.
little bit of chit chat to get things started. And you can chime in on Facebook or on our Instagram, hashtag us, or share it with us so that we can know what your thoughts are.
Definitely. And speaking of things, man, as we move on in our show for today, you know, while 2019 was the year before, in a brand new year, there are a lot of things that will trickle down. Now, there are things that always trickles over, which brings me to our first topic for this morning. We've got three wonderful segments, and the first one is going to be a conversation with representatives of Belize Peace Movement. What they'll be doing with us, they'll be talking to us about the redistricting case update. So they'll be giving us an update on that.
All right. The second part of our show, a lot of people are setting different goals for the new year, and there's nothing wrong with that. We're going to help you with some tips to be able to get through those. If you're looking at perhaps changing jobs or just making yourself look better professionally, we're going to be talking about your LinkedIn profile. Are you on LinkedIn? And if you are you using it the best that you possibly could?
Definitely.
This is one of the new ways that people find employees or recruit new people for their companies. And so we're going to talk to a digital marketing strategist about how we can improve our professional profile online.
So while we do that in our second segment, I'll tell you what, there are new hobbies, there are new things, there are a lot of people who could actually show you new things. For this morning, the third segment, we'll be showing you new hobbies, an introduction to jewelry making and handcraft.
All right, so we are going to go ahead and take that first break, but before we do, we got that birthday shout out.
Yes, we do. We want to say a big happy birthday to none other than Talbert Brackett the Third. Happy birthday to you, my buddy. Here is wishing you all the very best, coming from all of us right here at Channel 5 and all of us right here on Open Your Eyes.
All right, and with that, we'll take that break, and when we come back, we'll get our first conversation started, so stay tuned.
With over 100 years of service excellence in Belize, the Belize Bank Limited recognizes the
And welcome back to Open Your Eyes. Once again, we do say to you, Happy New Year, as we're kicking things off in a big way. As a matter of fact, in with us for this morning, we've got representatives of the Belize Peace Movement on conversation, an update actually on the redistricting case. In with us is Paco Smith, who is a Belize Peace Movement in the claimant case, and Major Lloyd Jones, who is a part of Belize Peace Movement as well. Guys, good morning and welcome. Happy New Year.
Good morning.
Thank you very much.
And you know, it's always good to start the new way in a big way, the best way possible. And this is definitely a way to start it here when it comes to good conversations. Now, let's to get people on understand on where the situation is. Let's go back to where it came from. So we're doing this update on the Belize Peace Movement and their redistricting case. Where did that come from? Let's go there.
Okay, let me start then. Well, actually, as you know, the Belize Peace Movement came about as a result of this ICJ referendum, and a group of like-minded Belizeans got together and we decided that we were going to put some effort into opposing that referendum because it was a one-sided affair. After that referendum, well, we asked ourselves, what next? And so we committed ourselves to three main objectives. The first is good governance. The second is to fight corruption. And the third is to promote all those things that are good for the development of Belize. And then we said, look, there's an election coming up. There's a huge imbalance in terms of political power in this country. And perhaps that ought to be our next challenge. And so we decided that we're going to go after that. And part of the problem is that the Constitution requires that the Elections and Boundaries Commission revisit every so often the political divisions, and that they have an obligation under the Constitution to look at those divisions and where they find an imbalance to correct that imbalance, that the division should be nearly as equal as possible. And currently that is not the case. And so they clearly have no intention of correcting that. And so we said, well, we'll have to go to the court and ask the court to look at it, and if the court agrees with us, to instruct them to correct that imbalance.
You did, in fact, attempt to explore other avenues before taking it to the court. You wrote to the Elections and Boundaries Commission, right? Tell us about that. What was the response you got? How long ago you contacted them?
Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that Brother Morgan, Paul Morgan, wrote to them several years ago to say that there's this imbalance, point them to the Constitution and say, can you please correct it? They did nothing. And then the Belize Peace Movement also wrote to them. We got absolutely no response from them. They simply ignored the letter and pretend as if though we didn't write. And so the only other recourse is to go to the court and ask the court to please examine this issue.
We saw the re-registration exercise conducted, and I think before that process was initiated, many had assumed that it would have been the best time to be able to do both a re-registration, a registration of new voters, as well as a redistricting. But that never happened. And I think it perhaps, because the registration was done, it fell off, and you guys have brought it back as an important issue, because it is. And so I wanted to talk about what the Constitution actually says about how the country should be divided based on electoral divisions.
Well, I think that Major Jones pretty much summed it up. The Constitution speaks to having the divisions as equal as possible, right? We know that we don't live in an ideal world, but all the same, when you have gross imbalances, for example, with certain constituencies that have upwards to 6,000 plus electors versus constituencies which have about 1,500, that's a gross imbalance. And it's, as you said, rightfully, that's something that needs to be addressed.
Now, what I'm trying to get at is so our viewers can be able to understand exactly what the letter of the law says, because what you are saying is basically just enforce what exists. And so there is a specific amount of electoral divisions that should be had, and as you said, what the Constitution says is basically it should be as equal as possible. We have specific examples. In Belize City, for example, we have divisions that are about 1,000 people. And when we compare that to some of the divisions outside of Belize City, you're looking at some with as much as 6,000, 7,000, right?
Yeah. Well, you see, the Constitution, I think when we went to independence, the Constitution said that the number of seats or divisions shall not be less than 28.
28.
But it was amended to say the number of seats shall be 31. So now we have a problem because of the imbalance, you can't, unless the House approves, you can't, and currently the UDP does not have the constitutional majority to change the Constitution. So it would require a bipartisan effort to change it from 31 to whatever. Right? But the Constitution says the number of seats shall be 31. What that means now that if you redistrict, Belize City will lose some seats because you can't go to 32 and 35 and so, right? And I think that's the problem. Belize City has for a very long time have a monopoly, if you will, on political power, right? And to the detriment, of course, to the rest of the country. So when we look, for example, at the smallest division is Fort George, which is a PUP seat. And as you know, I am a supporter of the People's United Party. And some people have tried and are trying to make this into a political issue. It is not a political issue. The Belize Peace Movement is not a political organization. I am a member of the PUP and I am a member of the Belize Peace Movement. And I don't think it has to be one or the other, right? Because if I have to choose, then it means that my party is not for good governance, it is not for fighting corruption, etc., right? So it is not a political issue. And the imbalance exists in both UDP divisions, control divisions, and PUP control divisions. So I think it must be made clear to Belizean people that this is not what that is about, right? But it is about an imbalance of power, and it is about fair play. So what happens now is in a small division, for example, I am registered in Belize Rural Central, 5,915 voters, compared to Fort George, which is 1,536 voters. So it takes almost 4 of us in Rural Central to make 1 in Fort George. How is that fair? This is the kind of imbalance and unfairness that the Constitution is trying to prevent. And so the impetus, therefore, is on the Elections and Boundaries Commission to correct it. Now, the trick here, of course, is that the Elections and Boundaries Commission will recommend to Parliament, and it is for Parliament now to take that recommendation and approve it. You see? But they have not even begun to the exercise. Now, you will recall that when we were pressing for re-registration, it was before the municipal elections. The Prime Minister said that the time was too short. It was about 8 months. I said, oh, we have a municipal election coming up. We can't redistrict. The time is too short, so we'll do it after the municipal elections. But then the Elections and Boundaries Commission then recommended that we first redistrict, then re-register. No, that like you put on your pants and then you put on your underwear after, man, it don't work so. Right?
Well, I mean, if we clearly define it, re-registration is going back to seeing who the voters are, where they are, and who's eligible for whatever space they live. So now that we do have that data, in terms of logical sequences, it is a good time to go back and see all these people have been confirmed in 2019 to be in these areas. And now we could look at ensuring that their the electoral divisions in the country are more fair, as you said. But you mentioned a very critical point. While we've heard you mention a few times the Elections and Boundaries Commission, they're not necessarily the ones who will decide whether or not a redistricting exercise will take place. What is the process as stipulated by the law?
Okay, well, for the lack of a better description, the Elections and Boundaries Commission is the body that's vested with putting forward to the government what needs to be done. If there's no political will to have it done, there you find yourselves in where we are right now, sort of an impasse, so to speak, where we know that intuitively these things need to be done, but whereby where the authority lies, it isn't being done. And I think that fundamentally it rests with the seated government, the government of the day that is empowered with the authority to put forth these type of measures.
So if you guys are successful in this case, what then? What happens next? And if you're not successful, would the Belize Peace Movement find another way or another avenue of, I don't want to say attack the government, but try to correct the imbalances around?
Well, definitely. We feel very positive about our case. In terms of our effort, in terms of our intentions, it's clear that the law says that this needs to be done. One of the things, as Major Jones said, is that the Belize Peace Movement is about good governance. And one of the fundamental tenets of good governance is that there is adherence to the rule of law. In the case, and we like to talk very, very positively, in the case that we are unsuccessful, well, there's always the room for appeal and things of that nature. But definitely our resolve is strong to ensure that those who are vested with the responsibility of ensuring that that which is right under the law are held accountable. So we shall leave no stone unturned in terms of whatever avenues we must take in order to correct what needs to be done.
And you know, and this speaks to, I think, to a very important issue for us as a people.
Excuse me.
That our political leaders continue to show disregard for the Constitution. They so casually brush it aside. The Constitution forbids us to give citizenship to Guatemalans. The politicians, for their own political purposes, grant citizenship. The Constitution requires that these divisions be balanced. They ignore it. We have to make the Belizean people understand that it is our duty as citizens to hold our elected officials accountable. And if we can't respect the Constitution, which is the highest law in the country, do you understand how this can lead to anarchy? Because if our political leaders can so casually ignore the Constitution, then what can you expect of them down the road? So it starts there. I also want the Belizean people to understand, and particularly those who are in divisions outside of Belize City, to understand what this means in practical terms. Yes. The Prime Minister announced that he was giving $1 million, he was making available $1 million for Christmas cheer. $40,000 for UDP control divisions and $20,000 for PUP control divisions. That itself shows you the kind of mentality that we have, because all these people are elected by the Belizean people, right? So it shows you right off the bat they start off with that imbalance, right? But put that aside. If you look at the Albert division, 2,208 voters, if memory serves me correct, gets $40,000 for Christmas cheer. You go to Cayo Central, controlled by Rene Montero. He has almost 7,000 voters. He only got 40,000 too. So 2,000 people, 2,200 get 40,000, 7,000 get 40,000, right? So if you divide that, the people in Cayo got less than the people in Albert. How is that fair to the people in Cayo Central? You see? So in practical terms, it disadvantaged the average voter. And I think the Constitution was trying to avoid this very thing, that your vote, your political power is less than mine. So they say, look, try and balance it as much. And the Constitution goes on to say, look, when you read division, or when you carve out these divisions, bear in mind the rural areas and the logistics and the distances between villages, etc., right? Yeah. So you have to take all of that into consideration when you make a division. That's all the Constitution requires, right? And our people, and it's a very simple exercise to me, that the elections and boundaries could not or cannot find it in themselves on their own to do what is right. That we now have to go to court and ask the court to please look at it and in effect ask for a writ of mandamus, force them to do their job.
Yeah. Now, the time of this particular case is an interesting one. We're in 2020. There is supposed to be an election by the end of this year, a general election at the end of the year. Any person looking on may say, listen, you know, the groundwork has already gone in the campaigns. It's highly unlikely that any administration would want to go through this exercise at this point in time. Do you feel that that's part of the hesitation that we've experienced in getting to the redistricting?
Absolutely not, because government has had an opportunity to do this from whenever they've been in government.
Yeah.
Right? So in terms of the timing, it is what it is. Unfortunately, I don't like to quote politicians, but one of them says that quite a bit. And the situation is that they're not adhering to the Constitution. Whether it be 1 month, 1 year, or what have you. The Constitution is the Constitution. As Major Jones rightfully said, with regards to the Belize Peace Movement, you know, we're grounded in fostering good governance. And some of the hallmarks of good governance are accountability, transparency, and meaningful participation. And those are three things that he just outlined that are lacking with regards to the governance in this nation. And it's incumbent upon civil society to back the burden, to be that medicine that is necessary. Because, trust me, those in positions of authority know precisely what needs to be done. They have known for quite some time. But if the people do not hold them accountable, then they'll just continue on with the status quo. So that's the grounding on which we put forward this case.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't, again, if you go back to the re-registration exercise, the politicians always want to do what's best for them, even to the detriment of the Constitution and even to the detriment of the Belizean people. When we were supposed to re-register, the Prime Minister pushed it back till after the municipal elections. He said 8 months was too short a time to re-register before an election. When we were to go to referendum, 9 months before the referendum, we conducted the re-registration exercise. 9 months was not too long, or too short, sorry, to conduct a re-registration exercise for the most important vote in the history of this country. You see, they are concerned about political power, not what is right. And unless we as people keep them in check, they are going to get out of control.
Yeah.
The government knows, obviously the people at the elections and boundaries know that this is required because they wanted to do it before re-registration. And the PUP at the time said, no, this can't be correct, right? So they know that it needs to be done, but it is not politically expedient for them. And I think we can't allow them to brush the Constitution aside and say, well, it's not convenient for us at this time. Make we go to elections first and then after we can do it. So that can't be correct.
So what we have on the screen here is actually a map that shows the different electoral divisions. It's pretty interesting to look at as well, because you see where electorally we are divided in the country, and to the far right you see what would be Belize City. Belize City has, or the Belize district itself has about what, 13 representatives. 13 out of the 31.
Right, so that's a huge political imbalance. It is an unfair representation in the House. So for example, it is as if myself get to elect somebody in the House, Paco get to elect somebody in the House, and then all of you in this room only choose one. Naturally we say, hang on, that doesn't sound correct to me, right? Why you or Paco get one each and then all we have to share one, right? And that is the problem that we're having. And again, it goes back to, these are all colonial issues where Belize City was the epicenter, and then we still haven't gotten rid of it, and then no political party wants to do it, because if you look, for example, in Belize City, the PUP, control 4 seats, right? So Fort George, right, which is the smallest, and then Caribbean Shores and so on. But if you talk about redistricting, they're thinking, well, I will lose this seat. Right? The UDP is saying also, if we redistrict, then we will lose this seat, which is quote unquote a sure seat. So nobody wants to touch it. They rather just keep it that way. Again, to the detriment of the Constitution. So we can't allow this to happen, right?
You know, and this is where the problem lies in our country, because I'll tell you what, we've got the Belize Peace Movement, and you guys are actually trying to get these things into places that they're supposed to. But I think one of the things that we don't have as the backing, which is the most important piece for a backing, is the people. Now, it lies with the Constitution, like you mentioned, where majority of our people do not know what the Constitution is, do not know how important the Constitution is. How do we get our people to back this up? It is important. I'll tell you why. We're seeing now the imbalances that's going on, which brings to the people, it's not fair to the people. How can we get this to be fair for the people, besides the fact that we go into court and then yes, court says this is what we have to do because this is the Constitution, and then we put things into places. Primary, the people must understand. How do we make this happen?
Well, I'm very glad that you touched on that, because in terms of advocacy, right, that's where the Belize Peace Movement is so critical. You see, and I'm very glad you gave us the opportunity from the onset to set the tone in terms of what exactly the Belize Peace Movement is. Because there are some media houses out there that like to confound it and say, oh, it's a political party, or they like to mention a political party along with it. The Belize Peace Movement is a registered civil society organization. The Companies Act, correct? We have our documents, our paperwork in that regard. Mm-hmm. And based on that, to directly answer your question, it ties into the need to create awareness through education for the people with regards to these constitutional issues. Mm-hmm. So, and that's where the Belize Peace Movement is the ideal vehicle, because it's not a political organization, it's a civil society organization, whereby we're not coming with a political agenda, right? We're not saying, oh, we're doing this because we want to get in or anything like that. We're doing this because this is for the benefit of the nation. Mm-hmm. Irrespective of the fact that it will change certain dynamics, what we're looking for is adherence to the rule of law. And with regards to civil society, you have the education, awareness, you have campaigning and lobbying. And those are the steps that we have to take with regards to getting things of this nature done. Yeah. This is not the only issue out there. Mm-hmm. This is just but one. Mm-hmm. Excuse me.
I'm trying to understand. It's an interesting political climate at this time, and I think that we heard from the Attorney General at the end of last year, which is just last week, where it is very clear, and he said it very clearly, it's not on the government's agenda. We'll see what the court says. So what we're hearing immediately is the pushback saying we have no interest in doing this at this time. What are you hoping? Is it simply to bring the issue to the forefront, that it is kind of accepted by the people as something that we see need to be done, or are you hoping to take this all the way through to as high a court as possible?
All the way through.
Absolutely.
All the way through.
Mm-hmm. And I think when I heard the Attorney General, I was like, man, he was
very matter of fact.
This is the kind of mindset that have us exactly where we are.
Precisely.
Belize is not where it should be. 38 years after our independence, we're not where we should be. Mm-hmm. And it is precisely because of these kinds of leaders and the kind of mindset that they have that keep us stagnated. Mm-hmm. The Belizean people have to understand that a lot of the challenges and problems that we have stems from our political leadership. And until we fix that, this is not going to change, it's going to get worse. We look at the economy right now, the economy has stalled. You look at crime is completely out of hand now, where the police are trying to impose draconian measures upon the Belizean people. You go to the Carl Hushner Memorial Hospital, the building is collapsing. It would take 25 million, for example, to put Carl Hushner in a good place. 25 million, We owe almost $3.something billion. Wow. So we can't, as a people, continue with this, what I call this fire and forget mentality when it comes to political leadership. We go to elections, some we collect, we leave 50 and we leave 100, we vote and we walk away. We can't continue like that. You have to remain engaged. This is our country, and unless we put in the effort to keep an eye on our political leadership, this is not going to get better. Yeah. So when I heard the Attorney General say, the government has no intention of doing that at this time. Well, we don't care where you got to say, brother. The Constitution is clear. You have a duty to do it. Correct. And if you don't want to do it on your own, then we are going to find whatever means necessary to compel you to do it. Yeah. Right? And so we have to say, look, this is good for us. And I would say this to the Belizean people. Anytime a politician comes to your house, ask you for your vote, you ask, especially if you are from a non-Belize City division, you ask me, my brother, why it take 4 of me if you make 1 out there, 1 over yonder? Ask them plain. And if they don't give you a good answer, vote for somebody else. Right? Because I tell you, nobody wants to touch it, neither the red nor the blue.
Hot potato.
Right? And I think it shows, to me, it shows extremely poor leadership that we know that this is right, but because it is politically convenient for you, you ignore it. That is not leadership to me.
Yeah.
Now, the Constitution does, and this I would imagine is part of what may be mentioned as why redistricting hasn't taken place, but it also talks about looking at some of the accessibility issues and the features itself of the areas, how you have access to a particular point. Have you taken a look at this specific point? I'm sure this is what they'll come back and say, well, you know, it's based on the transport that people have to these particular areas and accessibility in these areas.
Well, actually, it's very good that you bring that up because I think that underscores the importance as to why we're doing what we're doing. My colleague, Will Mejia, down in Punta Gorda, he always talks about the issue of access, right? Individuals in rural areas that don't have access to make it to the polling stations and whatnot. And that just underscores the fact that this needs to be done. It has to be done. And as Major Jones said, politicians will do what is politically expedient for them, right? And I think that after 38 years of independence, Belizeans have to accept the responsibility that we cannot rely on the good graces of politicians to have an epiphany and say, okay, we're going to do the right thing today. It's not going to happen. And the judiciary, or taking legal steps, legal means, is the, how can I put it? It's the way that we can buttress this situation. It's the legal means through which to hold those who are vested with the ultimate responsibility of doing what's in the best interest of our country accountable. And that's the reason why we have to go through this process as ever long as it takes.
Well, you see, the logistics of it, I think, would make the argument for smaller divisions in the rural areas and larger divisions in Belize City. Because, for example, you could walk to, anybody in Belize City can walk, except for Freetown, which is, I think, goes across the bridge, right? But just about every division, you could walk to your polling station. But in rural north, for example, you have to go several miles to get to a polling station. So you could understand why those divisions, geographically, they're spread out. So we have 2,000 people here. But Belize City, that's concentrated. Why you have 2,000 people here when they can walk? So that the Constitution says, when you redistrict, when you carve out these divisions, you should take into consideration transportation, logistics, etc. So it makes the argument for smaller divisions in the rural areas as opposed to Belize City. But we have it the reverse. We have small divisions in Belize City and then huge divisions in rural areas where you have to move people several miles just to get them to a polling station. And I think, again, that's unfair because what happens now is that when people are far from polling stations, they're less likely to go and vote unless a politician comes for them. As opposed to Belize City, I don't need nobody to come pick me up. I could walk to my polling station. But if you are 5 miles from your polling station, election day, you're not going to go vote, man. But a politician knock for your door, right? And I say, come carry go vote, right? And so this is the kind of challenges that I think we have to look at seriously as a people and appreciate that the political power belongs to the people. We entrust you to go and represent us, but the political power is ours, and you can't dilute my political power and concentrate Marlene's. That's unfair to me.
And just to be clear, because you made the case for smaller divisions in the rural division, that's not what a redistricting exercise would allow for. It says nearly as equal as possible, which means if we look at what the current registration numbers are, I think after the re-registration exercise, it was somewhere around
155,000 plus.
Okay, so that's what we're, and as equal as possible as you can do them based on where people live. That's what you would work towards. What would be the process? How would it happen? There's no of a redistricting exercise. What does the law stipulate?
Well, it's entirely up to the Elections and Boundaries Commission to examine it and to make the recommendation to Parliament. And then on the Elections and Boundaries Commission are the two major political parties, because there are smaller parties who are not represented, and perhaps that might be a next issue that we need to look at, to say that if the two parties control the Elections and Boundaries Commission, this is precisely why we have the kind of mischief that we have now. Maybe we need to look at the composition of the Elections and Boundaries Commission. But really it is for them to look at where the voters are and bear in mind the spatial arrangements, transportation, logistics issues, and then decide, okay, this will constitute a division, this would constitute a division, etc., and then make that recommendation to Parliament, who must then take it to the House and approve for those for that redistricting.
And the bottom line is that empirically, it can be done. I mean, there's no question. The numbers are there. It can be done, but as Major Jones said, it's up to the Elections and Boundaries Commission to devise how exactly it shall be done.
Yeah. And in terms of what type of resources it would take?
To me, it's a very simple exercise. It's to look at the numbers and to say, okay, this constitutes a division, and that's it. And the only requirement would be that to say, because remember now, you don't need to, what I imagine what they were saying is that if you create a new division, I was once in rural central, now I am in rural north, for example, right? And I think they're probably thinking, well, if you do that now, people will have to re-register again, or how will it work? You understand?
Yeah.
To say, well, and I think to me, you could go simply by address. It's a very simple exercise. If you live on Kelly Street is no longer in
that's Freetown.
Freetown. It is now in Pickstock.
Pickstock, yeah.
So don't go to vote over there. Go and vote
over this
that can be, in my mind, it can be a paper exercise, and simply to inform people.
It definitely can be done. There's no doubt about it. It can be done. But is the will there to do it?
Yeah. And since you have taken on this cause, what's the response you're getting from people? I know when you were taking up the position of a no in the referendum vote, you built some support base there. Have you been building a support base in moving towards a redistricting in Belize?
I can say from personal experience that a lot of the feedback that I've gotten is very positive. And it's quite interesting because it comes from people with different political affiliations.
Yeah, okay.
You have people that support the government that say, yeah, boy, this thing needs to be done. We really appreciate what you all are doing, stepping forward to do it. You have people from that support the opposition, and people from alternative political persuasions, as well as people that are not political whatsoever, that just realize that this is a national issue and that Belizeans need to be afforded equal opportunity with regards to their vote. So we're building momentum. We're getting a very, very positive response. And as you mentioned, John, it ties into the awareness, attuning the people as to what the law says and what are our rights as Belizeans.
Yeah. I mean, it's as simple as what you said. It's looking at the power of my vote. It looks at, because it's called a representative for a reason. You represent me as an area representative, and when you go into Parliament, you represent my interest. And it has been for an issue that has been discussed many times, but it is going to take political will, and since that hasn't been sufficient up to this time, you are taking it through the court system. You are heading back to the courts this month? Next month?
Next month.
All right. And where are we in this process? What is your attorney saying at this point?
Well, we're feeling positive about it. It's moving forward. We just have to go through the process. That's basically it.
And how do you explain this issue about its importance to just the everyday man who looks at you and says, "What in your court for now?"
Yeah.
Well, like what I say, when Christmas cheer come, 7,000 people get $40,000. And 2,000 people get $40,000. Divide that and you see how much you get compared to the one over there. Right?
Simple maths.
That's how it works, and it happens with everything. And I think this is a very important thing, because if we had, and a number of people are talking about this right now, about looking at our political system, and perhaps we have to go to proportional representation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If we go that direction, then the numbers don't matter so much, because you look at, okay, 7,000 compared to 2,000, and it's balanced, right? So you give per capita, for example. So if the Prime Minister had said $1 million divided by 155,000 voters, and then you get your, depending on the number of voters you have, it wouldn't have been a problem. But that's not how it works. You the one seat, and you the one seat, and that's it. You see? No matter how much voters put you there, you the one seat, one vote. And I think that is the problem. And so the average person have to understand that it can't be correct for somebody to have more power than you politically. Right? And I think a lot of people we still don't understand that really this is for we power, You go and vote and say, I put you there, Paco, for do, as Marlene said, if you look after my interests.
Yeah.
And then we vote for Paco and Paco turn King Power and we can't talk to Paco afterwards. What kind of nonsense this?
Happen all the time.
I always tell people, I have the highest ranking in this country, not the Prime Minister, I had a citizen.
Yeah.
That's the highest ranking in this country. We appoint or elect rather the people in Belmont, but they're not senior man.
The people give you a job.
Yes.
Correct.
The one job they got and you have to hold them accountable.
All right.
That's why I was getting in trouble too.
Well, we'll keep on following the case, and we do appreciate you coming in to kind of just give us an idea of the work you've been doing and why it has become such a critical point for the Belize Peace Movement. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much
Much
for having
appreciated.
us.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. We are going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, what's your professional profile looking like online and how can you improve it? We're going to get some tips in our second segment with a digital marketing strategist. So please stay tuned.
"65 years ago,
And welcome back to Open Your Eyes. We're moving now into our second segment for the morning, LinkedIn for Professionals, and how to get yourself on there. We've got the pro in to tell us all about it. Minor Lariu is in. He's a digital marketing coordinator, digital marketing strategist. He's in with us. Minor, welcome, buddy. Good morning and Happy New Year.
Thank you guys, and Happy New Year's to you guys, and thank you for having me on your show so very early.
You sound so grateful for us for this early alarm today.
He does. But we were looking at the topics for this morning, and this one really stuck out. As a matter of fact, on Extro, we heard one of our previous guests mentioning, man, I really want to get more into it. So it brings me to ask the question, LinkedIn for Professionals. First of all, what is LinkedIn?
Fantastic question. So LinkedIn is actually a new channel for professionals only. So if you look at it, it's the social media for professionals.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking about your career path or your work or work advice, that's where you go to. And that's what makes this platform so much different than your regular social media,
That's
because when you're on social media like Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, you're not really focused about thinking career path or work or learning new trends. While when you go on LinkedIn, even though you might not visit it as often as your other social medias, that's on top of mind when you're browsing through there. You want to look at articles that are relatable to what you're experiencing at work, or you want to get experience shared across different platforms. So it's quite different. It's a quite different
And connect with people who are more, who have your same interests or in your same industry.
Yes, and they've been really good at building community groups.
Yeah.
LinkedIn even has this local LinkedIn. It's not available for Belize yet, but they actually have like a local LinkedIn groups where you could chime in, and based on your interaction and engagement, you become a leader, right? And LinkedIn does offer that service. I think 2 years ago they started asking professionals, do you want to be a mentor and give advice? So you could turn that feature on as a professional. I have that feature turned on my and this 2019 they actually started doing beta live videos. So they've actually released videos on live for specific professionals.
Wow.
So let's go back to it. It's interesting because you said it so right. I've had a LinkedIn profile. There is a very big difference between what you would post on a LinkedIn versus, or even just the setup of your profile. And that's where I wanted to start. How important is it that you are aware of how you present yourself on LinkedIn, especially if it's a space that you hope to open yourself up to new professional opportunities?
That's a perfectly good question, Marlene. And I think 3 things would be my advice. 1, make sure you have a professional looking photo, right? Don't go searching for a photo when you are on a beach diving, unless you're an influencer and that's what you want to portray. So make sure your photo gives off good vibes. If you're an electrician, if you're a carpenter, then dress the part, so that's what you want to portray in a professional manner. So think about that, and a lot of people really don't think about that and just crop a photo of their family and then you're looking sideways. I've gotten really good recommendations from not from my LinkedIn profile, but from my WhatsApp, which is sort of like an extension of my business group. They're like, wow, you have a great smile in your WhatsApp group. And I'm like, I never thought of that. But people do business with you because they like you first. If you're not likable, they're not going to reach out to you for a professional opinion.
And primarily, they could get that from your photo.
They could get that from your photo.
But your photo shows a lot, And
the second one would be your headline, right? And here's, there's been a great debate between what you put for your headline.
First person, third person.
And what you put on it. Most people, if you're looking for professional growth and career, it should just be your job title. Because if I'm looking for a digital marketing strategist and I put my tagline, which is everyone has a special sauce, then I may not be reaching the right target, right?
Maybe McDonald's will reach out for your sauce.
Exactly. So, but in that, I mean in a digital marketing way, right? But somebody just browsing through my profile may not relate to what that really means. So just having your job title and maybe a pipe and a little description more, that would do it, right? So keep it simple. And the third part.
So be sure to put something in there. Put your title first. And
I think for me, and this was my first lesson learned in LinkedIn many years ago, before I only had a profile and I wasn't taking care of it, was make sure you get really good recommendations. And I really got a really good recommendation from the regional director of Google in Colombia, who I collaborated in 2016. You know, he left a really good review for me that I didn't see until maybe a year after, when I started seeing a lot more reviews. But that really fueled up getting recommendations. And you know, a lot of times people might say, hey, you know, I don't want to ask my boss for a review, you know, because you might not get a review that you're expecting. But you just have to, you know, and LinkedIn does it in such a subtle way where you could just ask people in your circle, professionals, who've collaborated. And you know, LinkedIn even gives you the option of saying, hey, what facility did we work together? Were we work colleagues? Were you my superior? Did we do a special project? And so that really helps to connect and get your online footprint better.
So basically you could get recommendations from other folks, and then people are actually seeing that, and which tells much more about you and how professional you are.
Exactly.
And so there are recommendations, which are actual written recommendations, and then there are reviews for your skill sets as well.
Yes. So I think 1 year ago, because before people could just endorse you having a skill, like one of my skills is social media, digital marketing. But what LinkedIn has started doing a year ago is actually validating and verifying what these skills are. So now you have them listed, but you will have a verified beside it if you actually take an online quiz and you pass it, right? So if you don't pass it, then, so if we could go in the review section and you scroll down to the last one, you'll see the first review I got was from Alejandro Rico, who works at Google, who still works at Google. But definitely having those skill sets will help recruiters to find, so I've received 25 recommendations, right? And it's all the way to the bottom there.
So you'll see that people basically just say what it's like working with you, and kind of, it's like a thumbs up, thumbs down, but with actual experience.
Yeah, it's kind of like a personal shout out, you know, saying, hey, I know Marlene, she's a really great person, so I'm endorsing you in such a way, especially if they have a larger following or influence. You know, think about somebody from, in my expertise, being endorsed by Google, because I'm also a Google consultant, has really elevated me to network with people of that seniority, if you really think about it.
All right, so on there, you're able to have real-time conversations with others?
Not necessarily. I mean, this section is just the recommendations. What they do encourage a lot is to put posts, or you could do an article of your expertise, or a white paper, right? So that's when you start becoming, you know, brand yourself. You know, so if you want to know how to run ads on social media and how to price them, then, you know, I might write an article and post it and be like, what are you really worth online? And then I might get reached out by different companies saying, hey, could you help me price my online ads? We have no idea how to do it, right?
So that was the endorsement that you're talking about. It kind of ranks which ones you get endorsed for the most. And so it's, see, this is why you're here, because this is why you're endorsed with these skills. So have you found, before we move any further, because I think we're diving into like profile and how to set it up, and I'm just wondering, are a lot of Belizeans on LinkedIn in the first place? Like, are we using it?
I think there's more Belizeans than 2 years ago. And I think, so think about who would use LinkedIn, right? And LinkedIn is kind of like your online resume, if you ask me, right? With more personalized recommendations. But I think more and more HR are using it. I know in my current role, I wasn't even asked for a recommendation letter. You know, all they asked for was my CV, and that was it. You know, and I know in the past, if you think about when you guys were, you had to ask for recommendation letters. Now LinkedIn is doing that for you, where, you know, nobody asked you to give minor recommendation, but you gladly did so because you had a good experience working with me. And so that counts a lot more than if I'm your friend, and you know how it goes here in Belize. And you write me up a nice little letter, and then you end up with the job and then you don't really perform the way you're supposed to perform. And I think a lot more companies are looking at so much less the qualifications in terms of degrees,
educational background,
and more looking at your skill sets and what you're capable of delivering.
Yeah.
Of course.
So,
And especially if you have a skill or a talent that is marketable outside of Belize, because outside of Belize, this is
Agreed.
used a lot. Job offers are made here. You may still
I've been
get.
invited to do speaker presentations. I mean, 2 years ago, I went to Uruguay to do a marketing congress. Last year, I got invited to go to Las Vegas.
All through
LinkedIn.
exposure on LinkedIn.
Yeah, people have reached out to me and said, hey, we're looking for a digital marketing person with your profile who has a lot of experience in the Caribbean tourism. And, that's how they found me.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
So it is a very useful tool to expose yourself in a professional way.
Yes.
To people in the Caribbean, people in of
I
course
agree.
North America, and okay, so
I like how you said
yeah.
it though. It's kind of like your online
Your online-
resume.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about do's and don'ts. What we started off with that picture.
Perfect,
That's
yes.
important. You want a professional picture, or you want a picture that represents the work that you do.
agreed. So 3 things. Make sure you have your profile completed with a nice, good vibe photo. Make sure you have a headline. Make sure you write a little paragraph about what your expectations are and your ambitions. People like to hire people based on passion and
Yeah.
ambitions.
Of course.
What you shouldn't do, and I think some people are doing it a little, is post any family messages. It's not your regular social media like I mentioned. So if you've written, like in my case, I've written a couple of white papers, I would go on here and put it
Post
up,
it.
right?
Yeah.
And then it would be data. I'm thinking of starting something new this year where we're going to write, something called Belize and Tourism Trends, because I am in the loop of so much information that might help other like-minded folks. I have a guy who calls me maybe once a month, and he's like, hey, Minor, I'm going to have to pay you at some point, but he just calls me to pick on my head.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, what do you think of this?
Yeah.
Do you think this would work? So just having that information out there would have more people like him who data is not really available in Belize as yet to become a resource, right?
Okay.
So make sure you write relatable content on your post. That's what you should do.
Yeah.
Make sure that you write not just relatable content, but also content starters, right? So what people want to know more about, right? So those are the things you really should be posting, and it should be industry based, right?
We had
What
one.
else should
We had
you
one
say?
don't. Yes.
Yes.
We had one don't, and that was not right.
Family.
Yeah.
I think that would be the only thing. Some people, because LinkedIn has a slower pace algorithm, and by that I mean it's not as fast paced as
It's not as
Facebook
changes quickly.
or Twitter. What I posted maybe 2 weeks ago. I mean, my last post was last year December.
Yeah.
To be frank with you.
Yeah.
And that's when I met Richard Branson when he was here in Belize, right? And I wrote a little paragraph about the experience I had with him.
Yeah.
But that was it. And that got me like 400 likes and a couple of shares, right? But I think it's not about the content, it's about the quality of the content.
Yeah. Of course.
So don't overexpose yourself on LinkedIn because people are not really on it. Like I mentioned, they're not spending more than 2 hours a week, perhaps, here in Belize, looking at it.
Okay.
And just think about when last you went on your LinkedIn.
Just
This
now when
morning.
we
You're like,
started
okay,
this
is it not
topic.
is it still active?
Yeah. So and that's the thing, because not only that, if we think of it like this is a potential employer or client that I may be working with, maybe that's how I frame my mind in terms of what I want to share, it's more work oriented. In fact, the newsfeed for LinkedIn is distinctly different. It's articles about your industry and people who you follow and
best
things.
practices, because everything is work career focused.
Yeah.
There's nothing about funny stuff on it, and there's nothing about family gatherings. You know, we leave all that stuff for the other social media.
Okay.
And for every time you accomplish something new in a professional,
exactly.
Yes, you
you
try
could
to
update
get
it. It's a milestone, you know, and it elevates you also. Even your job titles, because LinkedIn actually does give you different access depending on your seniority. Right?
Excellent.
So, what else do we need to do? There's also the important fact that you want to connect with people. So you have a LinkedIn profile, you have to have, it's not called friends, it's called connections.
Connections.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, because it's not a friend social media, it's a professional social media. So you're gonna be connected with like-minded people.
Yeah.
You know, like that's why I found a speaking gig also, because someone who I spoke with 3 years ago in Miami during a conference recommended me, he endorsed me, and then, you know, other people are reaching out to me for those type of things, you know, do digital marketing workshops or trainings, and those kind of things is what this kind of fuels through. And if you look at all my connections, unfortunately, there's only a few in Belize, because there's only a few like-minded folks in Belize doing the things that I'm doing, but I do have a larger connectivity, if you may, with folks in Minneapolis or Miami or Canada or South America for the same reason, right?
Is it linked to your other social media pages like your Instagram, your Facebook, and different things like that? Or would you recommend it?
No, I wouldn't. So whatever you post on here on LinkedIn actually is very close when it comes to that. They don't want you to grab a link from Facebook and put it on LinkedIn. You know, you actually de-rank your reach when you do that. And they've been very well at doing that, because they want you to create unique career work content for this platform.
And back to building connections, what's the etiquette on how you connect with someone? Because I don't know if it's the same, but I know you couldn't just connect with anyone. You had to have like similarities before.
I think there's not really, I think that's been removed.
Okay.
So you could pretty much connect with anyone you could search for, as long as they're publicly open, because you could have your profile on private or public.
Okay.
Right? So if you're a public brand, or you're like yourself, you're a public personality, your LinkedIn should be public so that you're open to reaching out. Because people might write you or comment on things, but you won't see it because you're on private.
That's true.
Right?
Or
So-
if they're searching for
or
you.
if they're searching for you, right? And so I think that's another thing that you have to keep in mind, that, you know, the searchability of, especially if you're working, like for you guys can set a feature saying, hey, I'm open to other options. So LinkedIn actually does that for you. So if you're looking, that's your way of saying, hey, I'm looking to move, right? So you feel free to reach out, right?
Or to other opportunities, because that's also, I think, one of the things that you can look at. So, what are the other benefits? So somebody who's watching right now, maybe they do the Facebook thing, maybe, you know, they have fun on Instagram or whatever other social medias out there. What would you say to them, even though LinkedIn isn't as big in Belize, that you need to perhaps pay, if you have one, you pay attention to it, and if you don't have one, you should get one?
And I think I'm going to go back. I was mentioning before the show, I traveled to Mexico actually to meet with a couple of businesses there. And one of them said something that resonated in me. He said, Minor, why would you not invest in something that's going to be the future? Right? So that's it. That's it. All these younger Belizeans are coming from college, and they know this 10 times better than you and I. Right? So get with the program. This is going to be the future. So if you're looking for a job, you better have these up and running for you, because that's your personal brand. Right? So start building those personal connections and recommendations and skill sets, because this takes a while. It's not like you're gonna have a nice profile over time with 50 different recommendations from 50 digital experts, you know. It does take a while, and it's not easy to achieve, you know. So get it going, because other folks are coming who are more hungry, who are more ambitious, and they're looking to come back to Belize.
And it's also key, you know, because some of the big companies are looking to invest if they're starting up something. I mean, it helps a lot. If I search for digital marketing strategist, Belize, you'll pop up.
Definitely.
And if I need a hotel manager, you know, they'll pop up, or an accountant. They'll pop up because that's how I can find people. And so if you're looking for job opportunities, that's one
This
way
is
as well.
definitely,
So
this-
maybe they look at your profile and say, this person is interesting.
Can you see who looks at your profile?
You can if you pay the professional membership fee,
Yeah.
yes. But if not, they give you a little preview of who looked at your, or they would tell you, they won't tell you the CEO of Channel 5 looked at my profile, but they would tell you production company CEO
Yeah.
looking at your.
Or sometimes it tells you the company, like 3 people from BTB
Yeah.
looked at your profile.
Exactly.
So you know that they have looked.
Yeah, they're
What
scouting, right? They're doing
So
their
at least they're
homework.
interested in your professional profile.
I think in today's day and age, one of the things that, especially for different countries, if folks trying to move from one point to another, which of course expand on your knowledge. So this is definitely a good way for me to get a job, probably in the Caribbean, being that we're linked CSME wise. So this would definitely be one of those ways, right?
Definitely. This really opens up your horizons.
Yeah.
You know, not just locally, but then you become marketable internationally. You know, so
Have you seen Belizeans use LinkedIn, like really having a good representation, or you think we have some work to do?
I think we still have some work to do. I would say there's a few Belizeans really doing it well, you
Yeah.
know, who are out there. They've been exposed to other things and what other people are doing with LinkedIn. Business-wise, I don't think we're there yet. And in advertising for LinkedIn, yes, advertising is a lot more targeted,
Yeah.
but it's also a lot more costly. It would run you like $5 to $6 per click. So
Yeah.
unless you're in the business of selling products of like $30,000 or more, then it would make sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's why you don't see a lot of small businesses on LinkedIn. You know, you see professionals, consultants, engineers.
Okay.
I've also seen Belizean attorneys, right? Because they want to get,
Yep.
you know, representation for companies locally who may need an attorney to set up shop.
Yeah.
You know, so those are the type of professionals you see more on LinkedIn because it's more within the sphere of what LinkedIn can do for them.
Yeah. And the key thing is to, I think, you mentioned attorneys, and if you put your specific areas of expertise, like if somebody's looking
Exactly.
just for that, that can help.
Exactly.
Is there perhaps a particular type of professional that will really benefit from having a LinkedIn profile?
I think realty companies would, for sure, and attorneys. Those have been the two that, and any financial service
Yeah.
person, you know, those are the ones that are really, for Belize,
Yeah.
Okay.
that have really benefited. And so far, I have not seen maybe more than 2 realty companies
Yeah.
been on LinkedIn. Maybe I've missed the others, but they just don't have a presence,
Yeah.
right?
So we're missing. So some people are really missing an opportunity here.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely get your profile.
Clearly, John doesn't have
No,
one.
I really don't
He's
have
thinking
one.
to
I
himself,
don't
okay,
have one.
maybe
My
I'm
wife
missing something.
does.
Yeah.
She does, but I don't. I
She
really
can
don't.
manage yours.
Yeah, I know, right?
But you have to pay her because that would be a job. So there
She
you
does
go.
have, yeah, she has a profile. I saw it actually while they were scrolling as well.
And here are 3 tips for those that want to get into LinkedIn in 2020,
Tell us.
right? 1, make sure you have a good photo,
Yes.
right? Good vibes. 2, make sure you use a hashtag. There's so much people not using hashtag, and actually hashtags work really good on LinkedIn. Again, going back to what you mentioned, if you look digital marketing in Belize, you'll see me popping up,
Okay.
right? Because LinkedIn does a really good job at doing that,
Yeah.
the searchability based on hashtags.
Okay.
So make sure you hashtag your articles, make sure you hashtag your posts. And thirdly, make sure you use video. You know, last year, LinkedIn started doing live beta videos,
Yeah.
so they're gonna launch that probably in this first quarter.
Okay.
So you'll see people being able to do live videos at conferences or at events. And I think that's really gonna stand out because there's only 1% of the 650 million people using LinkedIn, there's
Yeah.
only 1% of them actually doing videos.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. And there's some learning opportunities too. I think like some people have some courses that you can
Yes,
access.
actually there's a couple of LinkedIn experts right
Yeah.
now developing learning courses that you could take. So those will also become available pretty soon.
Yeah.
You know, they're doing them by industry and by market size.
Yeah.
Of course.
So it's really gonna, you know, they're really leveling up. And I think one of the things that I can see, and I haven't seen it, but perhaps would happen this year, is for LinkedIn to actually partner up with Skype.
Yeah.
You know, because Skype is very work related, it's Microsoft based, and so is LinkedIn. You know, LinkedIn got purchased, I think, 1.5 years ago by Microsoft, and so
we'll see an
there's
integration
there should
between
be
the two.
that's what I'm predicting.
Imagining, yeah.
it could happen.
So
you
people
run
will
there,
start
so-
doing job interviews via Skype through your LinkedIn profile. Who knows
Exactly.
what the
Wow.
possibilities
Wow.
are? No,
Exactly.
I'm not saying. I'm saying
But
maybe.
it could. I mean, in this day and age,
Yeah.
that's already happening.
You do
know,
Skype interviews, right?
all the time.
Yeah.
all the time.
You did. I
do.
think you did a recent, what do you call it? Speech through Skype, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you were mentioning that.
Yes.
So it shows that's just where we are.
Yeah.
So this is
Yeah.
it's definitely
It's the
something to look
future
forward to.
again.
It is.
There's one more thing I wanted to mention. So, you know, they were pulling through profiles, and one of the things that's key is that you have to be able to put out professionally your highlights. It's like your highlight reel. And sometimes that's a bit uncomfortable for people.
Yes.
It's almost showy.
It
I
is.
remember the first time I had a friend tell me, you know, like what you need to add in, and I'm like, it just
No,
sounds
but,
so...
but here's the tip with that. I think about it as a teaser for your
Yeah.
next employer. So you don't want to put out everything out there,
Everything.
but just enough to
Like your full
have
terms
them
of
give you a
reference.
call and be like, "Hey, Marlene,
Yeah.
can you come in for an interview?"
Yeah.
Right. So just give them, just tease enough, but you don't have to, you know, disclose the full
The
details.
full information.
So
yeah.
I know, going back to what you mentioned, some people are not
Yeah.
as comfortable as
others.
others.
Yeah.
So
Well, because I think a part of traditional speaking, everybody used to say, "Oh, the work speaks for itself," but you're laughing, right? Because that's not the current world we're in now.
No. And I think going back to what we talked about earlier, the skill sets where before anybody could just be accepting all different skill sets, at least for me would be like HTML5, Joomla, WordPress, digital strategy. But now LinkedIn is really taking a step back and saying, hey, are we really representing the employers who are seeking people with these skill sets? So let's give them a little quiz, you know,
Yeah.
and if you pass it, you get a little verification check mark on it. I mean,
Yeah.
I have like 55 different quizzes I haven't taken just because I haven't had the time.
Yeah.
You know, but at some point I'm gonna have to do that to validate the work I do.
Nice.
So it makes it better for you when you start to take these quizzes and
Of course,
your score.
of
Okay.
course.
All right.
Can your company have a page?
Definitely.
Okay, so it's not just
Definitely.
a person. Like if
So your company could have a page, and then you could have, let's say, so Channel 5 could have a LinkedIn, and you guys say you work at LinkedIn, and you guys could be like brand ambassadors for Channel 5, posting things that you do at work that will then benefit the LinkedIn of Channel 5. You know, so it's like a holding strategy.
yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. So we went through some of the do's, some of the don'ts. One, remember, it's a professional network.
Yeah.
That's a very key place to start from. That picture, you said the good vibe picture, very important. Use hashtags
Yeah. And videos.
and videos.
Those videos. And LinkedIn actually has the in-video app, so you could actually go on it and shoot a video from LinkedIn and post it right away. So you don't have to shoot it and then upload it. No, they have
direct.
it's direct.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
All right.
So there you have it. And one more question. So because I saw that message button and I've thought to myself how many times I've seen employment requests through things like Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
Since LinkedIn is a professional page, do you message about job vacancies there? Is that proper etiquette?
I would say you could, because it's a career social network.
Okay.
Or I would say it's more correct than doing it in other social media
Yeah.
networks, because whoever's running the company, like in this case Channel 5, LinkedIn would be able to speak to that or
Okay.
send or redirect that to HR.
Yeah.
So I think it's a better medium than the other social medias.
Okay.
Right? Whether it's correct still, that's going to be a community decision
Yeah.
as we transform more and more into a digital community.
Okay. All right. So there you have it. If you are looking to build that professional profile, if you're someone who knows and sees the opportunities that can exist in networking online, you got to make sure your LinkedIn is in order. And Minor, thank you so much for some of the tips.
Thank you, buddy. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I'm
Thank you
sure
for
a
having
lot
me.
of people in 2020 jumping online and
Yeah.
getting the process started right now. Good luck, and we hope this has been helpful for you.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, what about new hobbies? We are going to be introducing you to jewelry making and handcrafts. So that's coming up after the break.
No tricks.
And welcome back to Open Your Eyes. And we are now venturing off into our third and final segment for the morning. How good is it to learn something new?
Yes.
Getting to learn new hobbies. Now we've got two pros in to tell us all about it. And this is actually introduction to jewelry making and handcraft, right? We've got Irma Dawson and Liana Dawson. They're both artisan jewelry makers. Guys, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy New
Belize.
Year.
Happy New Year's.
And welcome. And I'll tell you what, I was just looking during the commercial break, looking at what you've got here, and people will be surprised at what we've got and how we turned it into this. So, let's get an introduction. How do we get started into this?
Well, Blue 92 is the name of my company.
Blue 92?
Blue 92. Yes, very original. So the reason it started was because I was unemployed and I wanted to do something that was creative. For many years I was working for other people's companies, but I just wanted something that I felt I got recognized for.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I felt like this is a way to go, being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And what made you think of making jewelry?
Well, I love jewelry. I usually, like, when we go into, like, Pink or boutiques, I say, oh, wow, that's really pretty. But then I say, my mom would be like, you could make that.
Because she was already creative. That's what I guess she's not saying. Yeah.
Yes, guilty. So I really love creating stuff. I've been creating drawing and crafting since I was little. So I wanted to be able to, get paid for it.
Yeah.
So that's why I created Blue 92.
What's blue? How did you get to Blue 92?
Well, blue is my favorite color, and I find it a very regal color. So, and 92 is my birth, year of birth.
Just in case you wanted to know how old she is.
Blue 92.
Yeah.
And so, Mom, what did you think when this idea first came about?
I said, well, I knew from ever since that she said that she likes to create, she likes to draw, she's really good at it.
Yeah.
And I saw, like, every now and again when you have events, if you want to go somewhere, like for me, I had an occasion and I had a dress and I said, could you do something to match this? Because sometimes you're looking and you're looking, you find maybe an earring, but you can't find a necklace, you can't find a bracelet, but you go out and you're trying to put together an outfit on the fly, and she's able to do that. So these collections, this one, we had an event, and she matched that up perfectly, even the nails. I was like, you know what? Why don't you go ahead and do that?
Yeah.
And in between, as she said, she was working, and in between that, sometimes you have time off where they're saying, okay, we don't need you right now. So she said, you know what? Might as well I just go full time into this, and it has taken off. It has been doing. We have been doing it thanks to all our lovely customers.
Yeah.
She's been doing this since 2013, off and on. But she's focused now on, and for me, the quality of work, it goes up and up, and she keeps changing. So for each piece that she has created, what we like to tell our customers is always a unique piece, because even though she's making this one, the next time she makes another one, you won't see somebody else.
To it, yes.
So even this one that she's wearing, if she makes it over, it won't be the same thing. So you are a unique individual, so you don't want to have everybody wearing what you're wearing. So if you say, I want this, then you will get this. And when she makes it for somebody else that likes it, it will be a little bit different. So that is what she tries to do. So each link is made with love.
So you make jewelry, but you also make other crafts as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're upcycling because everybody.
Let's say that again. Upcycling. So there's recycle, but you upcycle.
Yes, because the recycling materials, you take it to a recycling factory, they make it over into something else totally. Upcycling is taking what you already have and converting it to something, because it's still usable. It's just that people just throw it out. So we will use what we have.
So this lovely holder, because it could hold anything.
Anything.
Whether it's cutlery, makeup, pencils.
Anything at all.
You're going to see the little secret here?
Yes.
Where are you? Over here.
That's like a big bean scanner. Just wash out and look at that.
And decorated.
Yeah, but it's so nicely decorated, no one will ever know.
Right. True. And when you're doing stuff, we try to make sure that we're doing it, that you don't have any
Yeah.
complaints. It's not going to be scratching your surfaces.
Yeah.
You're using
Scuffing your
materials that are
tables.
environmentally
Friendly.
friendly,
Yeah.
and you put a little bling on it. So, you know, everybody likes something pretty in their house.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of lovely customers that are very appreciative. We'd like to say thanks again.
And this one, John,
Yes.
is particularly excited about.
Yes.
You'd only be happier if he had emptied the contents for you or your parents.
Yeah, that's it right there.
That's your good old reliable tin sausage.
Tin sausage pan.
That's what
Yes.
it used to be. Now
Yeah,
it's
now
a
it's-
beautiful
But
holder.
it has gotten an upgrade and it will have longer life.
Yes.
So not in the dump heap, but we will preserve its life by giving it a little flair. So even the bottom, we have a we take our time. A lot of people say, oh, this look like it takes hours. We
Forever.
take time doing it so that when it gets out, it's done properly.
It's done, yeah,
So
it's done the
even
right
the
way.
bottom, and you don't have anybody saying, oh my gosh, I could see what that is.
Yeah,
You actually have to look really carefully. And you put the styling, Belizean flair. We had a lot with Belize on it, but we sold out. Some people from overseas and tourists, they like the Belize on it, or even people coming in from the States and they want to take something back for the family.
Even your dish soap. I mean,
Yeah.
even your hand soap.
Yes.
Or lotion.
Or lotion. So
Shampoo, anything.
yeah, these ones, brand new bottles. So you know, you could put your lotion, your shampoo, whatever you want to do. You could, as I said,
Yeah,
it could
because you
be
could
in
do
the
this like a
kitchen.
bathroom
Yes,
set.
in the kitchen, the bathroom, the bedroom, wherever you want to use it. It's versatile.
Look, I'll tell you what. You see this one right here. There are a lot of hotels who would just get the big bulk and then refill.
Yes,
That's perfect for a hotel room.
And if you like us to put a little Belizean flair on it, we do that as well. Because we've had requests where people say we'd like to have Belize
Yeah,
on it. So we
yeah.
can do that as well.
Okay.
And then the jazzing up with your box, your floral box, you could do different
Change
colors.
the color.
This one is for a guest house. Right?
Yes.
We're doing a guest house redo, and we didn't get the lady's permission to mention her name.
Yeah.
So we just like to
guest
say
house redo is
it's-
okay.
Yes, it's for a guest house.
So that's why you have the matching
Yes,
set
we
already.
have-
So you were right
yes.
on point with having
Yeah,
like personalized.
so we
stuff.
have guest houses that are requesting these. So you could jazz it up. Jazz up your rooms,
Yeah, of course.
put your arrangements in, and we love that we're getting people from Belize that appreciate it, because nothing like your home
Of course.
first, you know.
And we have a potpourri
Yes,
holder
yes.
here too.
So you could put the potpourri, decorations, jewelry, whatever you'd like to put
Your
in there.
sunshades.
Sunshades, yeah, we have
Hair
bigger
accessories.
boxes as well that you could. People are requesting bigger boxes, and they're using that in the bathroom, their master bathroom. They're putting in their towels, their toilet papers and
Yeah.
stuff. So
Yeah.
you tell us the size, the dimension that you want, and we could go ahead and do it for you.
All right, excellent.
So
excellent.
Blue 92,
beautiful.
where you can get upcycled products like these, but as well as handmade jewelry, unique handmade
Unique.
jewelry. And
Beautiful.
yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I think there are some people who would do the purchasing, but there are people who are interested in seeing if they can do it themselves. And you're actually going to share some of your secrets with us today.
Okay.
Of course, you have to have the creativity is to
Yes,
know where to
that's
start.
one of the main thing.
That's the part I will definitely not take for granted. But you'll show us the how-to at least. All
I'm
right.
gonna get into it.
So,
So with anything,
over
any
cement.
job, you need your tools.
Okay.
So you always have to be prepared by having tools and materials.
Okay.
So what
Because
I've
of
brought
twine over
today,
here?
yes, some of my wire. Thank you so much. So you have to have different different types of wires.
Okay.
Something
So
similar to
they
that
have
one.
different dimensions and widths and stuff like that, different grades. So I have a cut piece. This is called memory wire.
Okay.
okay.
So why it's called memory wire is like a slinky. So it never loses its shape.
Okay.
You know, I
So
have
it's
some
a
that looks like aged gold here.
Okay.
So I'm gonna take out. You have to have a nice, cute, fun dish. So I have one that says bling out there. I'm gonna pour out
There you
some.
have it.
All right.
This is pretty though.
So you
I was already eyeing the finished product. Right?
Oh wow! So with this, I'm just gonna start stringing them.
Okay.
So the cool thing about my process, I just go with the flow. I just get a different selections, different colors,
Okay.
textures. As you see, this one, this has like a titanium finish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put some of that.
Do you visualize while you're doing it, or
Oh
you,
yes.
you already know
Sometimes I
exactly
visualize
what
and
you wanna
sometimes I just jump right into it.
Yeah. Sometimes it draws out the design, on a bit of paper before.
do? Okay.
So what I'm gonna do is you're gonna go with clear beads. Some of them I start with the titanium, like a large piece, because you don't want to have them all the same because it looks boring. That's in my opinion. So I'm gonna go. You mix and match it.
Yeah.
So you develop one pattern, right?
Yes,
like
a
as you
pattern.
go along.
Or I could go a little bit crazy and, you know, just add how I feel like you could go. Because if you look at this, it has titanium, clear, and black.
Okay.
So did you tie the end though, right?
Yes.
So it doesn't fall off.
So it doesn't fall off.
Yeah.
I'm going to show it again at the end. I'm
Okay.
not cheating.
All right.
So you just...
So of course the process takes a little bit of patience,
Yes,
and
it
you
does,
must you know, you have to
yeah.
be steady and all that. That much we
Right.
could see. But one of the things while you continue on there, you know, people are very reluctant in venturing off into entrepreneurship, and I notice, of course, you guys are a mother-daughter duo.
Yes.
How
Yes.
important is that for you, the entrepreneur?
Well, I feel it's important because you have to have somebody on your team that knows you, that gets your vision. So my mom was the best candidate. So I work along with her. I bounce ideas off of her, and she bounced ideas off of me. She said, does this look good? Or should we place this here? And then she said, I said, yeah, that looks good. Or I said, no, that doesn't look good, and take it off. And the same goes with my jewelry. I ask her questions. You have to, the main thing is that you have to have somebody who gets you and your vision.
Yeah.
That's what I feel.
And so, Mom, did you ever envision that this was going to be what you'd be doing as she grew up?
I always knew she would be doing something creative, and I envisioned a business, a storefront, you know. So I always saw that in the future for her, and she's working towards it, which I find really, really commendable, because a lot of time you find people saying, I don't have anything to do. I don't have any job. I don't have, you know, there's always something. There's a creativity within us from birth. We come out with something, but you need to find what that is and maximize on it. It could be the simplest of thing, but you can make it into something. If somebody look at that and, oh, that's just a can, you know? It's not just a can. You can turn that into something and make it where when we get up in the morning, we act as if it's a business that has already been out there. We
Already
get up
established.
8 o'clock, we take our bath, we get up 8 o'clock to 6 o'clock, we work.
In the evening.
Every day.
You're dedicated
Every
to
day.
it. Yeah.
Treat it as if it's going to somebody's job.
Yes.
When you, the same way you put a passion into getting up and going to work for somebody, do the same for your own.
Your own?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or
And
more.
a lot of time people say, oh, I make enough money yesterday, so I'm not going to work tomorrow. That's not the way to do it.
You have to be consistent.
Consistency is the thing. Every day you put in that work, every day 8 to 6, you set your time. You don't have to do 8 to 6, or take a little bit more time because of the type of
The
work, the
detailing.
detailing. But if you say it's going to be 9 to 5, make sure that it's 9 to 5, Monday to Saturday.
Yeah.
We take our time off on Sunday for the family. But Monday to Saturday we work from 8 o'clock to 6 o'clock without fail.
Irma, we know that you're very good with sales. You're very good with
you.
marketing, and we knew that much. We've seen you around.
Thank you.
How important it is, especially for this business in marketing, and how's that going for you?
It's very, very important. What I was saying again, you put your best face forward. When you go out, dress yourself.
Yeah.
You put your product, whatever you're making, you're the best person to demo what you're
Yes.
doing.
Yeah.
Put it on. Put in a lot of time when Leanna goes out, the earring that she's wearing, that's the one that the customers
Yeah.
want. I want one just like that.
Yeah.
I want one
like I'm
just
eyeing
like
your
that.
one.
Why,
This
thank
is
you.
so beautiful. I don't know if we caught that.
Beautiful.
That
yes.
is
Yeah, so that is the reaction that we
Yeah.
want. that is the reaction that we're getting.
Yeah.
And we want to go forward. And men, I tell you, the ladies, even some of the gentlemen that buy for their ladies, they're like, yes. Do you make for men? Yes, she does.
Yeah.
Do you make it in this color? Yes, she does. There's never a no in there. And if we don't have the color, like we had a lady that requested, she had a master bathroom, she had the color, and she couldn't find the accessories anywhere. She was going all over the place. And when we went out, they bought out for Christmas time, they bought gifts for their staff and stuff. And she said, I have a bit of fabric. Could you see if you could make something? And she bought the fabric. We went all over town trying to find the color in the materials and stuff. You know what I had to do? Get downtown, buy the dye the yarn, and
wow!
we got that done for her. When we took that back for her at the office, she was like, she was happy. It matched perfectly. So if you want something that is unique to you, we will try our very best.
Yeah, like
to
black
get it
and
done.
white fixtures in a bathroom. That's unique. It'd be hard to find something like this
and
on
nobody is thinking that it will look elegant.
Yeah.
It is elegant. So
you
tell us what you want, we will configure it for you, and we'll get it done. Even in jewelry for Liana, we've had a waterfall necklace in yellow, and a young lady site, because she posts on the Instagram and Facebook, Belize Buy and Sell, anywhere that we get ourselves out there. And she called us back. We posted it like in about like an hour. We got a call back, and she said, "Could you do it in black and gold? Because I have an event on New Year's, Christmas, whatever she was going into." She said, "I love it, but I would like it in black and gold."
Bam.
Done. Black and gold. Yes. So she did the wire twisting. She was up until like about in the nighttime, but she got it done for her.
Wow, and so we're actually seeing some photos of some of your work, and I think clearly you can make just about anything. I see some personalized ornaments there.
Yes. That was a lady. We went to do a delivery, and when we went to do the delivery, there was a lady at the beauty shop, and she saw the other lady's stuff, and she said, "I want that. And she ordered so many of them for Christmas to take overseas.
This is by Blue 92.
Yes, Blue 92.
What's the most unique thing that you've been asked to make?
A box, a bigger box.
Okay.
Yes, and we embellished that with shells from Belize, seashell from Key Carker, San Pedro. We try to incorporate our stuff into it, because when we send it out, we let them know what it's made of.
Yeah.
And we make sure that we're putting our Made in Belize by Blue 92. So they see that we're a little nation, but we're coming up.
Yeah.
And we're trying to push ourselves out there in a positive light. So
of course.
Yeah, so that was one of the most challenging bit. And with ours, even though these are upcycle items, when I don't have the items, I make it. So I can make the boxes from scratch. It's a little bit more time, but it's a little bit more money as well, and the customer understands. So so these just because it's already pre-made some of the items inside, I can actually do it. Make it.
So you're shipping now over to the US. Tell us about that venture.
That's one of the exciting things for us. Yeah. So jewelry-wise, Liana paints because she does painting as well. She paints the boxes and makes sure that we have Belize on it, because we have to have our Belize out there. Yes, Belize is on it, and in the side she has Blue 92 with her signature. But there's a scene like a coconut tree, palm tree, or our own sunset and stuff from our country going out there representing. So the boxes that I make the boxes and she paints it. Those are the boxes, the gift boxes that we're giving to show Belize is out there. So we've had people reordering, and they were giving those for Christmas gift over the Christmas holidays. So necklaces were going out, and what they call it, the bread box.
Wow.
Yeah. So
you finished it.
Oh my!
Look at that. I was saying to myself, I don't know if she'll be able to do that all on set. And there you go.
And let's put it on.
Of course, it's because you have a
model.
So bread boxes are going really, really well too.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Bread.
There you go. See, a very unique
It's a unique piece, yes.
All right, so that's.
Check that out. Done on set as we spoke.
Quickly.
And so you could do color combos that
yes.
people like, just about anything.
And you see, you don't use just one color. You see how that brings
Yeah.
out
Brings out
different
the
tones.
majority of colors.
So it's black, it's
Yes.
titanium, it's
Yeah.
clear.
Are you finding the jewelry selling more or the crafts? Which one seems to go
feel
faster?
Like both.
Okay.
Both are moving at the same pace, which is good. That's good. There's no
Yes,
competition.
it's good. Yeah, I know.
Where do you sell your stuff? Is it still just on a one-to-one basis, or you have anyone carrying it?
Not yet.
Not
yeah,
yet. We
but
would like
one
it.
to one.
One to one.
Yeah.
Yes.
So through your online profiles.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
how do we find you? At Blue 92?
Blue 92 Fashion Jewelry and Craft, right on Facebook and Instagram. So we have everything you see here and more. We'll have it on there. So I update it. I show like we have this on new.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we show the new stuff and we show stuff that are sold. Like okay, we're out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it can be done over if you
Yeah.
like in a different
Color.
color.
Different color.
Yeah, and that's one of
That
the
one is
requests.
beautiful.
Yeah.
This is a very.
one.
You don't really find that when you go downtown, you would find only red.
Yeah.
And that is like what it's like a basic red. This one looks like a wine.
Yeah.
So that's what made me like gravitate towards
And I like
this.
this design though. This is cool. It almost looks like, that's what I wanted to show. It looks like hooks.
Uh-huh.
What?
Yeah, look
And
at it.
actually label it too, Blue 92.
We're trying to be professional.
Professionally
Yes,
done.
you have to.
And this matches your earring that
Yes,
you
it
were
does,
showing.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Look at
beautiful.
that. That's lovely.
And
And
the great
the-
thing is that it's gold plated.
That's what I
so
was
it's
gonna
not
say.
gonna turn green or
Yeah.
blue or black.
It doesn't
anything.
tarnish.
It's perfect for Belize air.
Yeah.
Because the environment, you have you sweat a lot and stuff,
And
and it change. You find things change color. This does not change
Yeah.
color.
And it's it itches the ear. The other stuff you would see itches the ear.
Yeah.
It causes irritation.
Amazing, I swear.
all right,
Yeah.
Blue 92
Blue
on
92.
Facebook. What's your other contact information?
So
Is there a number people
Yes.
can call?
Every number.
yes, you can reach me at 630-7202.
Okay.
Anytime.
630-7202.
Yes.
Well, ladies, thank you for coming in and showing us what you have, but more importantly, just showing us how simple it was to create your
Yes.
very own necklace. You get all the materials locally in Belize as well?
Yes, we do.
Some we import.
Some we import.
Yeah, some
Okay.
import. Because sometimes you find that unique pieces, you need to import stuff.
Yeah.
All right, and you can upcycle anything from a sausage tin to your beans tin. And even the hand soap that you just finished, you
Yeah.
can make it look even prettier and keep on using it as
Definitely.
well.
Wow.
Ladies, thank you so
Thank you
much.
so very much.
Thank
for
you,
having us.
and
What a
thanks
way to
to
st-
all
yeah.
the customers that have been purchasing from us and reordering from us. We appreciate the business,
very
and
much.
2020, let's do more.
All right. So what a way to kickstart our new year right here on Open Your Eyes. We're about to take our final commercial break, and when we come back, we'll be wrapping things up. So stay with us. All right.
With over 100
And we're back.
Just like that, 2020 has started for us here on Open Your Eyes, and we had some wonderful conversations to kickstart the morning.
Yes.
So we want to say thanks to our first set of guests for this morning. That was none other than Paco Smith and Major Lloyd Jones on Belize Peace Movement and their redistricting case.
Yeah, it is definitely an interesting case, and I think you'll see more about it as we follow along with the court case. But we were happy that they came in, kind of just to give an update why this has become an important issue for them and what they intend to do in terms of following through with the process.
Definitely. We also want to say a big thank you to Minor Lariu, who is, of course, a digital marketing specialist. You get where I come from. It was a wonderful time speaking with him. There are new trends going into 2020. LinkedIn, not so new, but new to our country. Get yourself in tune with new stuff. Thank you, man.
All right, and closing off for today, our first for 2020, Belizean company. I love the mother-daughter duo thing that they have going on. Blue 92. You can find them on Facebook. You can find them on Instagram, and you can get your own handcrafted jewelry or upcycled items like what we see here. You can put in a request for what you'd like. Irma explained so clearly how they go out of their way to find the matching colors that they need. Or, you know, maybe you have just decided that you want to try out a thing or two as well. We're grateful that Leanne showed us how to be able to make it. I can't believe she did this.
Easy.
Like when she first started, I was like, are we gonna have enough time to finish it? I know, I saw your face, you were thinking the same, and she did. It was just so, I guess they're used to it.
Yeah, so guys, thank you so very much. You guys, man, I'll tell you what, having you on the show, especially teaching us new ways, new things, it's an excellent idea.
Or creating your own possibility.
So you no longer have to recycle, you can upcycle. When you buy in Belize, you build Belize. But we've got to go. If you've got any questions, any concerns, drop us a line at oye@channel5belize.com.
You can also drop me a line at marlene_oye@channel5belize.com. Find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BC and on Instagram at OYE Belize. And remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
To start your morning right, as per usual, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your hearts open. We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.